I always am curious of like price per square inch is cool, like how people price their work. And I assume that as you become more popular and like it starts to grow, your pricing has increased with that as well.
I remember, like, I forget where I heard this or reading it somewhere. It was like guidance on how to price yourself. So if the rule of thumb was if you have a price point and you have a ton of stock, that means your price point is too high. But if you have a price point and you're constantly sold out, that means your price point is a little too low. Or maybe just you can go up a little bit, but you're like in that sweet zone. So it's grown over the time, obviously, and I think it will continue to grow as interest grows with me.
By the way, that's like it's like such an obvious tip. It's all, and as a friend of mine always said, it's always easier to make your prices. If from a pricing standpoint, if you're negotiating with someone, you can always make price. It's very easy to lower price. You can't raise a price.
Exactly.
And so do you do things other than just your originals? Do you do prints? Obviously you do installations. I've seen on your site, you have some merch. Like what other revenue drivers do you have?
Yeah. So I'm doing my first hoodie release right now. Today is actually the last day, or it's probably by the time this airs, will be already too late. My orders are closing today, November 15th. But yeah, I have prints that are available. I did a print run and I did pretty decent on those. It was like a 4 variation color print. So there's 50 of each. And then I saved a few and have done like hand embellishments on them, which people like as well. And then, yes, I'm just getting into like clothing merch. Earlier this summer, I did a collab jumpsuit design with other fellow artist Lefty out there, who's a good friend of mine.
Okay.
And it was about 60 or 70 pieces for one client for this party that they were doing. So after doing that, I've always wanted to make clothing. And so it was a no-brainer to start these little minimal drops.
I'm always curious because obviously art is art, has its own like slow sales process in many ways. So like the little side hustles people do to augment or to have multiple revenue streams at different price points to keep all people interested. It's just smart.
Yeah.
I'm going to ask did you get sucked into the NFT game at all, or did you stay clear of that?
I think like most artists, I was definitely interested by it. Thankfully, I wasn't as prolific enough. Just to go back a little bit, some of my other friends who are also artists did very well, and I'm very proud of them for being involved in it. I think they maintained their integrity while doing it because the things that they were producing were visually great to look at and also had a very nice like collectability to them. They were in the right moment for that time as it was exploding. I think personally in my interest in terms of my career and my art, it was not quite as relevant. Having said all that, I did make a few like one-of-ones and sold them to some people who are my other collectors for some of my pieces. And I dabble. I'm interested in cryptocurrency. I'm not like a cryptocurrency absolutist like some, but yeah, as we see now, again, the market is not doing well, and a lot of those like really big, like bulky projects that aren't like the top tier blue chip that the apes or the crypto punks are really suffering. And even those, in terms of if you look at it as like a commodity or like however you want to look at it, they probably lost 20 or 30% of their value. I don't know what those exact, so I'm not sure if those numbers are exact, but they've definitely lost value since the big peak and bubble of it.
Yeah.
I'm still interested in AI, NFTs and NFT art, especially the whole NFT like AI art side, not like the AI computer like composition programs that we see, but yeah, it's a whole different tangent I can go into. But
yeah, I'm always curious to see. I caught a little bit of it, more like flipping them than actually making them. So I made a couple, but but I'm always curious of people who caught. Like I've interviewed a bunch of some people who that was their business. That's what they did. So I'm always kind of like curious to see. Or not. Also, just I've interviewed a couple big NFT artists that have just made a god awful amount of money.
Gotcha.
All right, so we're going to rotate a little bit to sales, and so the next question is, where do most of your sales come from? Is it gallery? Is it social media? Is it third-party sites, social? What are your kind of inbound traffic sorts?
A lot of my commissioned pieces are, and for the hoodies and for the prints, it has mainly been via social media and just through my own kind of acting as my own agent, if you will.
Okay.
And I've had others connect some sales for me and for a fee. And then I've also worked with some galleries and I've sold some stuff via galleries, also obviously for their fee. Yeah. And then on the mural side of things, I have, again, someone that hires me to do that and like books me on jobs like that. Like also work
Okay, so you're rep by someone
in a sense. It's not like an exclusive rep. It's just a kind of an agreement. Like, for example, my Chicago market, the person that I work with, I would go to them first for if I was individually approached by something in Chicago and I knew that it was like someone that he would do like the legwork in terms of communicating with them, I would approach him and he would take care of it. Or vice versa. How more often as he finds something for me, he's like, hey, I have this wall that'd be perfect for you, and we move forward. But again,
That's
it's not
cool.
like an exclusive relationship in terms of other places I've done murals. I act as my own agent at times.
Okay, so I'm going to get into that in a little bit. So basically, you do most of your sales by yourself.
Yeah. Most of my sales for paintings. Yes.
Okay. And in terms of your social channels, is it mostly Instagram? Do you use TikTok, or which ones are your kind of faves?
It's mostly Instagram. Everyone keeps telling me I should be on TikTok.
I'm torn with it. It takes a lot. Like, it's about content. If you catch the algorithm, it's the greatest thing in the world. If you don't, it's just a fucking slog. It's
my 2 cents on that is I don't speak for everyone else's bandwidth. My personal bandwidth is I need it freed up to do what I'm doing already. And I not only need it, I like to have that bandwidth because I'm still very much in development in terms of myself as an artist. And there's a lot of, in terms of like creativity, I think that goes into making a really viral reel or a really viral like TikTok. And just full honesty, like that's not my forte in terms of creativity. If I were to really, like I said, take up a lot of my bandwidth to do that, I know I could do it. It's just, I like to save my bandwidth for the things that I'm truly doing now. And so maybe that means I need to hire that out. And that's like somewhere where I'm at right now in terms of scaling my growth and production.
That's cool. By the way, one of the guys, someone I interviewed, that I thought said it best, that TikTok is just a meat grinder for content, right? And look at how much time I spend making content. And I sometimes am like, I think I spend more time making content than I do making art. It's super annoying.
Yeah, it can happen.
Do you use any third-party sites like the Saatchis or like these kind of online digital galleries, or do you stay away from that completely? Okay.
I think I'm on like maybe, I don't even know which ones I'm on anymore. I don't remember, but I've never sold anything through any of those.
Okay. I'm always curious. So I ask because the goal here is that people learn from other people's experiences, mistakes, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah, I wouldn't necessarily say it's a mistake to go on there. I just think for the type of art that I make, it just doesn't work well.
And in terms of your murals and your walls, do you like restrict how many of those you do in a certain, because I assume those are relatively time consuming and take a bunch of, you have to travel and they're just more labor intensive.
Yeah, I mean, there's only so many of those you can physically do. I tend to hire an assistant when I do projects like that. Also, I'm based right now in Los Angeles, but most of my mural work that's not in an interior, like for example, I still do like office spaces, like I'll do smaller murals interior for like an office space. So if one of those comes along, it doesn't take me more than 3 or 4 days, depending on the size, of course. But so I do like to crank those out when they come available, obviously. The bigger ones, yeah, usually it's in the warmer months of the year. And yeah, I mean, the last humongous one I did was, I think it was 70 feet by 30 feet or 65 feet by 30 feet, which is like what is that? That's 30
Fucking
times
big.
60. Yeah, that's 1,800 square feet or so, just a little over.
Did you price that one by the inch? That's a
No,
lot of
no,
inches.
murals are always per square foot, actually. Yeah, that's how murals square foot, things are square inch. But go ahead.
And how do you? I've never done that many. I've done like one or two murals, but they were like freebies to figure shit out and learn. How do you? How does one even decide to charge for that? Like, how do you get? And I assume they pay the expenses, and I don't even know how to think about that.
Yeah, so I think I think going back to selling anything in terms of if you're creating a product, what's like a good way of knowing what to charge? That's like a good question always. I think that in doing it, I've figured out a way. I know how much it's going to cost me per square foot approximately. I know how much time it's going to take per square foot approximately. And I just factor all that in and make sure that materials and all that stuff is covered, and then, plus my fee.